All right, man. What is going on? How are you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Living life.
Yeah, crushing it down in the ATL or what?
I am down here in the ATL. As far as crushing it, I mean, that's objective.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, I feel like the normal answer, like you never talk to someone and they're like, like, hey, how are things, man? Especially if it's like, like you and I have had 3 or 4 conversations before, but if it's like an acquaintance-ish, they're like, no one's ever like, it's mediocre.
Yeah.
No one's like, things could be better. 9 times everyone's just like, oh man, killing it.
Everyone wants that like overwhelming positivity, but then on the flip side, no one wants to talk to that guy that's like, well, and then tells you they're all like,
yeah.
I'm never gonna ask you.
You're like, come on, man. Like, I didn't sign up for this. But if if you did ask me how my day is, I mean, that's kind of on you. So hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining us here. If you have not joined one of my live broadcasts before, one, you might not be active on LinkedIn at all because I do like a bunch of these a week. So hopefully you're now going to be sucked in. But in a lot of these, look, every single one of these we try to do like very, very Q&A format and really try to highlight like a very specific topic. Today we're going to talk about like repeatability in sales, and we're going to talk about science and art and how these two things weave together. And, for us, please, a couple of kind of like rules here, things that'll helpful. One is drop your questions in the comments. So if you guys have questions, be super, super, super selfish. And again, like, hey, man, I'm getting deals stuck here, or I've tried to build a repeatable process. It doesn't work. Whatever your questions are, drop them in the comments, and then feel free to tag some of your coworkers if you think they'll get value as well, too. And then make sure if you hear something that you like, if Mr. Mirza here, he says something, he told me beforehand that he likes the thinking man. He wants you to just crush that little like thinking guy, because then it's like he's thought provoking. For me, I like the heart. It makes me feel good about myself. So you can hit the like button, whatever you want to do. But if you hear something that you like, make sure to hit the like button. I know sometimes you get caught up in the broadcast, but it lets us know that we're kind of hitting on a thread here. So there we go. So my friend, we're going to talk about predictable closing, right?
Yes.
So we're going to talk about how to build out specific patterns for predictable closing. And I am a huge fan of this concept, meaning, and I'll just tell a little bit of story to kind of tee it up for you. I had a leader when I was 26. There's a very specific conversation. I'll never forget it. I talk about it all the time, where I was really good at sales naturally, but I also read a lot of books and I studied the game, and I read Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy audio tapes. Like I was a sales, I cared about the profession very early, but I didn't really understand the process side of it. And I went to Career Builder. This is like 2006, kind of at almost their peak. And I remember I there was the training class, like 10 people. And there was like me and one other person who hadn't sold anything. And I went to my director. I'm like, dude, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And he's like, Jake, I've listened to your call. And this is my director. So my boss's boss. He goes, Jake, I've listened to the call. He's like, dude, you have to stick to the messaging. You have to stick to the flow. And I'm like, well, come on, man. I'm a special flower. I don't need a process. I don't need a predictable revenue process. And he goes, Jake, let me ask you a question. He goes, do you think we're stupid? Do you think we train 1,000 people on this because it doesn't work? And like that for me, my man, was like one of the biggest epiphanies of my career. I'm like, well, no, probably not. And then the next month I closed 60,000 in new business. So it's like, it was a light bulb moment for me. And he's like, dude, just drink the Kool-Aid, execute the process. I'm like, all right, man, I'll do it. And sure enough, I was like, oh my God, like sales is the process. I kind of knew it, and I had pieces of it intuitively. And so that's kind of what predictable, sales means to me. Predictable sales means to me that you have a consistent way that you're able to move buyers through the journey, that you adjust based on deal size and other things and who you're talking to. But, it's that kind of repeatable process to move people from step A to step B, not just to generate leads. So that's my own story about it, and kind of my awakening as a sales professional about why predictable sales is like actually a real thing. And I'd love to know, man, from you, how you think about it. Obviously there's the art side of it. We'll talk about that too, but how do you think about, predictable sales? What's different? What's evolved over time? I think I'm always interested in hearing that.
I think you know, and I think you just hit the nail on the head, which is from a standpoint of, you know, predictable sales, predictable closing. It's a process with, you know, variations based on what, you know, what the deal is giving you and reacting to it. But ultimately, kind of the milestone points are the same. I think we get, you know, people have a tendency to lean towards one side of the spectrum or the other, which is, you know, the one side is, no, every deal is unique. You have to do this, you have to do that. There, you know, otherwise I'm going to sound scripted. I'm not going to be on.
Right.
And then you got the other people that are on the other side, which is, you know, kind of like, no, say these words, this, and say it verbatim. And I have a tendency to believe that neither are correct. And it's what you said. A good process allows for variations. And the simplest way I can put it is, you know, we all love movies, and I think there's like this like theory that there's really only like 5 different stories.
Right.
Star Wars is just a Western in space and things of that nature. And that's kind of how I look at a sales process. Ultimately, the milestones are all identical, right?
Same.
But the inflection points and the specific verbiage and all of these other things, one, they have to be somewhat relevant and unique to each call, but number 2, they have to be true to you. So you have to say something that's personal. And so the way that I have certain phrasings that I use, you know, one of like, everyone's got these like language crutches, and mine almost immediately is right when I'm about to ask someone something. I always say, help me understand, right? That rolls off my tongue completely naturally. And when it rolls off naturally, it evokes certain things inside of your brain because you heard me say it naturally. Versus for you, that may not be in your general vocabulary, but you have something that's similar. So we don't have to get bogged down on some of these words and phrasings. Sometimes they are important when we're talking about messaging to the company.
That's right.
Most of the time it's not, and you have to be in flow of the sale. And so you can have variations there, but understand you're ultimately working towards particular milestones. And it's like the old quote, right? If you don't have a goal, how will you ever score type of thing? And so you have to know what is that next milestone you're tracking for. How, you know, you could take some side streets, you could take the freeway, you could take whatever, but understand what the address is that you're going to. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. So that's kind of my thoughts on you know, predictability.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think to me, there's 2 things that you mentioned in there. And again, everyone, please continue to drop. We're starting to get some questions drop in here that I'll call out. But I really feel like until you have something mastered, it's always going to sound forced. And so be okay with that. It's okay. Like, don't just give up on a messaging or a script or a talk track. You know, again, like that, help me understand. Like, you know, also don't just give up immediately. You know, there's a reason that that's a best practice. And I think for a lot of people, they give up too quickly, understanding that, look, the reason that people hate scripts is they sound robotic. Well, they only sound robotic because it's the first 10 times you've ever done it. Right. And so I think people have to really have a little bit more patience with a lot of like a process. And like, again, there's a reason someone is telling you to say it this way. And it's not because they don't want you to succeed. Right. And a lot of leaders struggle with that.
And here's just a, you know, a simple, you know, you know, I have a way of speaking, right? And so you know, I always tell people you got to check yourself, right? And this is kind of like a little gut check thing, right? Every person, you know, you always walk in, you're hot shot, this, that. No, they don't know what they're doing. I know what I'm doing, this, that, and whatever, right? And to use your example, right? You had sales naturally, but you couldn't close deals. Let's just go ahead and assume.
No, I could close deals. I was just in this one job. I was struggling to pick up the momentum. I was closing the shit out of deals before. But yes.
In that one particular moment, right? It wasn't closing for you in that one particular moment. So here's the way that I always tell everybody is I'm a big fan of iteration and optimizing and making things better. I'm not a big fan of recreating the wheel. So what I would tell everybody is, look, let's just go ahead and assume our process, our system, whatever we're telling you is broken. It's the worst thing in the world, right? And you've got something better. But don't try and recreate it and start from scratch. Take what we have.
That's right.
Implement it. And then as you get more familiar with it, make it your own, personalize and get better. But take the head start we've already given you.
That's right.
Start at the starting block. And that's the one thing that if as a salesperson, you know you're better than what the process is and you've got a more unique way, that's fine.
Yep.
Right. I'm not saying anyone is perfect, but don't start from scratch and recreate the wheel just for the sake of it. and then optimize only. You know, that's how you're gonna, you know, ramp quicker.
Yeah.
Do it that way. Take what they have, learn it, and then optimize from there. Don't start it.
I love it. That's exactly right. That go in, take that framework. If there's someone who's doing it, make it your own over time, iterate on it, continue to do that, study the game, phrasing this way. And I think the key is that you're always evolving it too. So we got one question here from my man, Chris. What's up, Chris? How are you, man? I haven't talked to him in a while. Chris Neuer, he's with a company called Spiffy. He says, how do you prevent deals from being put on the back burner when you have them sitting on the goal line? I feel like the answer is process, but how do you create urgency and get it done? So I'll give my 2 cents on this one, and then I'll kind of pass it to you. You know, we work with a lot of organizations around this, and the answer to so many of these questions is the most boring shit, is that it goes down to discovery and understanding and clarifying business objectives and a compelling event. That the reason that you aren't able to get people over the finish line is there was never a compelling event for them to buy right now anyway. And if there's no compelling event, or there's no compelling event coupled with a story of why they need to start now from an ROI standpoint, deals are going to continue to push. Or you're going to do your stupid discount, and not you, stupid Chris, you're the best, but you're going to do the it's my end of the quarter, so you get a discount. If you don't have an accountability plan, if you don't have a compelling event and a time frame and a story of ROI and steps to get there, you're going to consistently deal with this. And so that's why, you know, Guy had asked me about deals pushing to Q1. I'm like, well, dude, you probably didn't have a compelling event for why they had to buy in Q4, because they actually need to buy now so that we can hit the ground running in February so we can achieve those outcomes. And I just don't think people go deep enough on the motivators of their customer versus their own, you know, internal motivators.
So short answer, 100% agreed. All starts with discovery. Long answer, I'll tweak it with my opinion. You can't create urgency. You can, but you can't, right? Like, it's such a slippery slope to play to try and create urgency. It's a bad idea. So in my opinion, I'll just use the sweeping statement of you can't create urgency, because you shouldn't create urgency. The urgency that you're really looking for is, like you said, accountability. And that, correct, absolutely happens in discovery. Far too many people stay at surface level discovery, and, you know, kind of, because at the end of the day, we're working with an end goal. So we're not asking fully deep enough questions, right? We just want to hear what we want to hear, and then we want to move to the next one because we just want to get to our pitch.
Yep.
Which, it's not, that's a natural tendency, because, you know, look, man, you got what you got to sell to them, and you want to sell it to them, right?
Yeah.
Last thing we're trying to do is figure out a way for them to say no. So the first hint they give you that they need it, you take it and you run with it, which really is sales 101, right? Don't talk past the deal. But at the same time, if you don't go deep enough into discovery, it's going to be surface level. And I'll change it a little bit, because you said about business objectives and ROI. I have a feeling on this. While at a surface level, business objectives and ROI are very important, most people, and I will make the statement, most people are pretty bad at their job. Most people just really don't care. It's a 9 to 5. They want to clock in. They want to do well. Nobody wants to do poorly. But if, you know, the difference between doing well and doing great and amazing and outstanding, there's just not enough people that really care.
Yeah.
So when you find out what those business objectives and that ROI is, that still may not be enough for them to either, number one, go stick their neck on the line and push.
100%, dude.
Right? And because they're like, well, the cost of change, there's some cost of change. I am taking you at your word that this will work. And if it works, it'll be great. But at the same time, we all have loss aversion. So what if it doesn't work? And no one ever talks about that, right? So we do need to kind of protect them against that. So number one, you do need to define the business objectives and figure out the ROI, without a doubt. But then take it even deeper than that and really understand, okay, well, and I don't want to use beat up challenger sales methodology, but it works, which is, so just change the verbiage, but essentially you have to figure out the why as to why are they doing it? Why do they
personal? That's it, dude. That's exactly right. It's the combination of both, and you're calling out perfectly what I glazed over, which is it's a combination of both. I have to know your motivations, what you're trying to accomplish for you personally, your group, because you care about you first.
And it's not a function of simply being from a standpoint of what would it mean for this to be done, or what would it mean if 6 months from now you didn't make a change like that? What if you don't make a difference? Look, man, we've all heard that before. The strategy is accurate, but the verbiage needs to change, because now it's at a point where we've heard it enough times. We place no weight on it. It doesn't scare us, it doesn't motivate us to actually make a change. So just be mindful of that. But at the end of the day, like, the most important thing is understanding that why. And all, like, the why is the nucleus why, but then there's factors that surround it, which are the business objectives, the ROI, their personal, all this other stuff, what the gain is, what the loss is, what is the loss if what you invest in doesn't work, and how do I mitigate that risk for you? You pack all of that together, and then it becomes and this is what we're eventually hopefully driving towards, is that you build that momentum, and this is the post you made yesterday, which is about closing. And I'm going to give the dumbest example possible. And I think my basketball player viewers, listeners will understand. I hope everyone else can keep up. Jake, you play ball? You play basketball?
I do. I played varsity basketball. I'm the only person at Lee Summit High School in Lee Summit history to go from 8th grade B team to varsity basketball. That's how deep the skills are.
Okay, there we go. So I played it. I played it, a decent amount, and I still play to this day. Just Sunday, like old man rec league. But the difference between when someone shoots a shot when you're close range to the basket, right? A lot of people have a tendency to throw up a floater, right? It's just like, I'm gonna throw it up and I'm gonna guide it to go into the hoop. Versus, why was Kareem's jump hook, like, I think statistically it's the most accurate shot in the ever, because he didn't float it, he actually shot it. And it's this directional intent. That's the difference, right? When most people, they get to a close, they check box everything. They say, okay, I've done all the right things. Here's the proposal. I'm going to present it to you. They set next steps, expectations, all of this other stuff. But they never really drive that hammer home. They never say, when are you going to sign?
Mm-hmm.
When can I expect this back? And when
you got to do it before, though. How I look at it, you've got to start that process after the second or third meeting. No. It's supposed to be at the very end.
No. Agreed. No. I'm saying, once you have done all of that, don't assume you've done all of that on the front end, and then it's going to roll into the close. When you get to the finish line, you're still redlining it, right? And that's the thing that most people, they let off the pedal and they coast through the finish. Most of the time it's going to go through, but people are too afraid to actually, like I said, drive it home at the end. You have to do everything from the top of the funnel properly, but don't let off at the end. And so when you send that proposal, don't say it's in your inbox. What you have to ask them, when are you going to sign it? And when they say, oh, I think I'll look at it tomorrow. Wait, are you signing it tomorrow, or are you looking at it tomorrow? Ask those questions. Most people will never ask those questions, and then they end up in the follow-up line. You got them on the phone, ask them. That's that drive home.
But you just hit on the head. You got to get them on the phone. I'm a huge fan. Let's never email proposals, ever. That's where you lose it. This is the stupid mistake I still make every 9 to 12 months. Every 9 to 12 months, I'm like, done deal. This thing's done. Email the proposal, lights out. And then they're like, but Jake, this, and this, I'm sorry, we went with blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you are an idiot, Jake. I cannot believe you didn't walk them through it. Like, why didn't you do that? So I think that you're 100% right, man. And it is something that I think it is very common that you get sloppy at times there, because you're just like, oh, can I just please just email this? And they'll just like sign it.
It's like
please just sign it.
Yeah, it's like it's like changing tires. After a while, you just get sloppy, and that's where you got to stay on point.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's it. I think that's a great call out. So we've got a couple more questions here. So again, guys, keep them coming. Got about 75 people hopping in now. Love this shit. Gerard, he's a good dude. He said, damn, that's good. Floater versus shooter. I love this.
Put it in the ball. Put the ball in the hoop.
I love it. Let's see. So we've got some here. What's up, Krista? Krista Crane. She talks about having the steps leading up to the compelling event agreed upon by both, documented, aligned. I think that let's talk about this. Let's talk a little bit about kind of a mutual, like your thoughts on like the mutual accountability plan. I feel like We talked about it a little bit. Krista's talking about it a little bit here. Again, make sure, guys, you're dropping your questions in here. We're getting a lot of really good traction here. I'm loving the comments. Again, make sure you hit the thinking man. It makes him feel good. The heart makes me feel good. Whatever you want to hit, you can hit the like button, whatever you want. I'm a big fan of mutual accountability plans of like deals of a certain size. You know, I work with some teams and it's like any deal over 50,000, like it's table stakes. Starting from meeting 2, you have to have a mutually agreed upon timeline and accountability plan with them that they've agreed to. I think the biggest mistake I see with these is it's the rep's plan and the other party's been like, yeah, that seems about right. And the rep's like, okay, they agreed to it. It's like, no. That's not agreeing to it. Right. And that, to your point, like that's how you can help to hold them accountable in those later stages is by saying like, look, we talked about this. We talked about what would happen, like why we're at this step. And then how do we move forward? Have you ever had success using mutual accountability plans? How do you think about those as a part of like predictable sales?
I completely agree with you. I think you absolutely have to have them. And to your point, it's 90% of the time the rep's plan, not the person, not the prospect's plan. And so the prospect's like, what's no skin off their back to say yes, and it's just too much of a headache for them to correct you. So like, yeah, whatever, right? They don't care, right? So really, it's I'll equate it to, you know, I'm an old school sales guy, right? And so, you know, rule number 1.
Got the suit on, I love it, man.
Yeah,
I love it because you always have the suit and tie. Do you think there'll ever be a time where you won't do it? Do you think there will be a time where
Fridays? I'm casual Friday.
All right. Well, next time we're going to do this, we're going to do it on a Friday. I got to see what casual you looks like.
It's a t-shirt and a blazer.
Okay. All right. Casual. I like it though. I like it. Pocket square, or no pocket square?
I stopped using the pocket square because everyone was using the pocket square. So
okay.
I flipped from no pocket square to the no-show socks. So that's kind of
okay. No show socks. All right. Yeah. I got it. I like it.
So anyway, so the what were we talking about, man? Like
I totally derailed you talking about the suit, man. Like we're talking about, you said I'm an old school sales guy.
I'm an old school sales guy, and the old school sales, you never give them the pen, right? You never give them the pen. You keep control, right? And but what that rings true for me in that is that don't create the accountability plan, but write the accountability plan with them. So I mean, very simple way, right? If you got your little template up or whatever the milestones are that you got to fill out. If you're doing a screen share, it's super easy. But always be on video. If they're not on video, it doesn't matter.
It's so huge. It's such a good call out. So it's so tactical and so easy. There's been a ton of research around this. Citrix, like what was Citrix GoToMeeting, had done a bunch of research. I think it's like a 34% like increase in like the next meeting or like close rate, some stupid number about just having video on.
Just use your brain. Like little simple things. When they're talking, you can be like, right, you can't do that strictly with audio when they're getting that confirmation. And look, you're agreeing right now. I can have a beat on that, but you're not actually verbally saying anything. So if they're on video, awesome. But even if they're not on video, you have to be on video. You can express so much more. Way more trust is built. They know you, see you, all that stuff. Not using video. That's your problem. But anyway, so what I'm getting at is to do the mutual accountability plan. Pull up the screen share. They're seeing you, and you're asking them questions. Okay, when do you need this by? When? And not say, does October, this is where you got to use your sales skills, but in reverse, and ask them so it makes it their plan. Now, when you say, hey, does October 28th sound like a good date to make sure we've got this all buttoned up by? And if they say, oh, well, you know what, maybe November 15th, understand that's theirs. That's their number. They're probably going to stick to it. Hang on, I misspoke there. Don't give the October 28th. Ask them first. Don't throw out the first offer. Ask them first. When they say October 15th, understand that's the date that they're working with, and you want them inside of the month. And you now need to give a compelling reason as to why it has to be October. But don't start with, hey, does October 28th work? They're thinking November 15th. 99% chance they're not going to correct you. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And that's where you get that misalignment, and that's your it's
your deadline,
your plan.
Yeah. So and if you want it in the beginning of the month, just what I'd add is like, if you need it, then you need to be able to anchor it to something they said. And I think that's the biggest issue is like all of these compelling events, all of these things we're talking about. That is why the questions are so important. It's got to be what you said. I got to have them say it. It's not my reason why. I need you to say, well, actually, yeah, we do need to get it started then, but I'm worried about blah, blah, blah. And that's why it's going to push. Okay, let's talk about that issue.
Exactly. And I think it's just, man, it's really as simple as just putting in the work. Like, here's the thing. We all talk about mutual accountability plans. I guarantee you, how many people watching right now? 75, right?
We've got almost 100 now.
Okay. So let's just say out of the 100 people watching, one, maybe two of them have done a mutual accountability plan this month. Guaranteed. Like that.
Yeah.
Max. We just don't do the little things. And I'm not pointing fingers. Look, I know I'm supposed to do a mutual accountability plan. I just had a deal come back and push to next month. Why? I didn't do a mutual accountability plan, right?
Yeah.
So we're all lazy. We all make mistakes. It's not a function of beating each other up. It's about holding each other accountable. And we all make mistakes. And it's not even a mistake. It's just pure, just like, I don't need to do it, or I'll do something else.
It's like the follow-up. We don't like that shit. And so we don't like we're sales. We don't like administrative shit. We're not like, even though it does, I mean, I've never talked to a rep that closed a 7 or 8 figure deal where they didn't use one, right? Facts, there is no big deal that gets done without one, but for whatever reason, it's just easier not to, right?
You mentioned something about follow-up, man. Like, follow-up's my jam. That's really where you get to, like, it's one thing to route a G League team, right? It's one thing to just, like, you had a lay down, come in, you beat, and you closed it, right? That's not fun, right? Like, I got people that come in like, hey, this is what I need, send me, and we set next steps, all this other stuff, and then I get an email. They're like, yeah, we're ready to move forward. I'm like, well, that was easy. That's nice, but that's not satisfying. Like, you don't get the kill. For me, it's when you like gotta chase someone down and they're hitting you with the no and this, that. That's when afterwards you get to like puff your chest and be like, I closed that one. And that's actually closing a deal. Where they hit you with the, yeah, let's move forward. You didn't close shit, man. Like, that was order taking. So for me, that follow-up is really where you get to really have some fun. And like, I got like text message threads that are like, going back and forth. You got to own it. You got to enjoy it. And once you finally look at it as a game that you're now chess moving back and forth, and all of a sudden your follow-up is no longer an administrative task. That is the game. That is crunch time. And if you start thinking about it from that perspective, lights out. You will close 10 times more, because now you're not following up for the sake of following up. You're following up because this is what you live for.
That's the process. Yeah, dude. I think that's an awesome call out, man. So we've got some more questions coming in here. All right. So we've got, let's see, who's asking this question about coming to know? Was it Rob? Robichaud. I'm sorry, Rob. That's my bad, man. You can feel free to tell me how to enunciate it. So he talked about getting to know. So I think that this is an important thing to talk about. When you think about creating a predictable sales, how do you think about no as a part of the equation? Where does no fit in? What's important? What's not important? How do you view no as a part of the process? And where do you, like, how do you incorporate that into the process and the journey?
Bear with me. I'm gonna get a little esoteric here. And I don't care about the no, right? The no is nobody, like the old baseball. I'm a sports guy, right? So like the old baseball saying, you miss, you go to bat and you miss 70% and you'll end up in the Hall of Fame, right? Yeah. Who gives a shit about the no, right? I don't like this whole concept of going for the no and all this other stuff, because, if you're going for the no, then you're not going to get a maybe, and then you'll eventually get the yes and this and that. I'm going for the yes, right? And so for me, it's a little bit of a reframing. It's the same thing, but it's a little bit of a reframing. And so I'm driving towards, this is again, going back to the floater versus the shot. Okay, I'm looking for that yes. And so I'm going to keep looking for that yes, not looking for the no, because when you look for the no, I'm a big believer in the secret. And I'm a big believer in that. I believe you're going to say yes. I'm going to push for the yes. And if you say no, hey, to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. I don't think that fully applies here, but it is what it is. But the thing is that I'm pushing for the yes. So I agree from a conceptual level of what that person is saying, but go for the yes, not for the no. The book, going for the no, I get it. I don't love it, just from a framing concept.
Yeah. I hear you. I think what you're saying, and this is interesting. I always talk. I think I talk about it as getting to the no. For me, what am I actually saying though? So for me, here's how I look at it. I think I am the definition of consultative, meaning when I go into a conversation, the first conversation, I don't give a shit if you're ready to buy or you're not. I'm just going to find out. And I'm not going to try to make you the person. I'm not trying to make up some compelling event. So I'm not trying to, I guess I am trying to find the yes. Okay, so let's talk about this. And how are you thinking about that? Nah, Jake, that's good. Blah, blah. Okay, well, let's talk about this a little bit further. What about the teams and now that's good. Yep, that's good. Now yep. All right, man. Looks like you're doing this. You're doing this. Look, it sounds like things are great. Let's, here's some things. If this starts to fall apart, let's catch up in 2 months. So I guess I'm kind of looking for what am I looking for? I don't know if it's looking for the no. I'm just looking for, is there a problem here that I can solve that's important enough to where I think that they'll move forward? So that is what I'm looking for.
Correct. But here's the deal. You and I, we've done this once or twice, right? We understand when the first no comes out that who gives a shit, yeah,
exactly.
The buyer's a liar, right? No, I don't believe a single thing that comes out of their mouth half the time, right? They're working you just as much as you're working them, right? So at the end of the day, that's why I don't like framing it from a go for the no, because I've worked with enough junior reps that they genuinely believe that first no. That's the problem. If you and I go for the no from a conceptual level, I get it. Yeah, we're going for it because at the end of the day, we're looking for the problem. If there's a problem, there's no deal. If there's a problem, then there potentially might be a deal. Other reps aren't looking for it like that. They're looking, and this is the problem. You get a lot of these, let's call them kids. Well, I'm 30, but
yeah, dude.
They're like 22, 23. And they're like, they think they're consultative or challenger and they're going for the no. And a lot of times they're just being assholes. And they're like, well, what would this happen? What would this, and what would this be? And I'm like, and I can see they're literally trying to get me to qualify myself to work with them. And I get that from a framing and a kind of like a power play standpoint,
right?
But too transparent. And you can tell they've misunderstood what their job is. Their job's not to get a no. Their job's to get a yes.
Yeah, and if not, I'm trying to get a yes. Yeah, if not, I'm trying to get a yes in a month or two. So what I do is when I disqualify, I call it like I plant mental bombs, the things I know are going to blow up. So I'm going to say, hey, look, it sounds like this is going great. So look, if you start to think about reps hitting quota at a higher percentage, or you start to think about the technology stack isn't quite getting you what you want, then let's catch up in a couple months and have the conversation. Things that I already know are going to pop up.
I think I'm a little bit more of a. How much am I allowed to swear? I should probably keep.
I usually shit is fine. I'll drop an F-bomb every once in a while.
So I'm a lot more of a jerk. Let's call it when it comes to things like that. I always call out the exact problem. Like you're kind of like leaving it there, like you said, like a mental bomb. Like I'm more like I'm gonna nuke the hell out of this place. And so I'm more from a standpoint of like, okay, I understand what you're saying. I don't agree, but I understand where you're coming from. Let's talk again when this happens, right? And I'll name a specific thing that I know they're like 6 weeks away, because everyone wants that unicorn 1099 sales guy that they're paying 100% commission to.
Exactly.
Rolodex and this and that. Like, yeah, sure, go look for him. After 8 months, when he's not sold anything, and again, I do it in the nicest way possible, because at the end of the day, like I'm a people person. I need people to like me. I want people to like me, and I'm that guy, right? I'm like your high school jock that like everyone loved. So I do it in a way where they still love me,
right?
Like I pressed on that pain, because at the end of the day, if you don't press on that pain, man, you're never gonna make any real money.
Yeah, well, that's it for me. I'm just like, look, I'd rather go find someone, and again, because then the other thing I think is the attitude about, look, I'm selling to a company, not Susie Smith. If Susie says no and she works at a 1,000-person company, I don't give a shit. I go find 85 other people that could potentially buy. And I think too often I see a lot of people, they get one no or one quasi interested, and they just keep single threading that deal. And it's like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like you got to go close a deal with, Oracle NetSuite. I don't give a shit just because John said no. I think too often people disqualify companies instead of just disqualifying the people.
And that's exactly why I don't love the concept of going for the no. I get it at a conceptual level, but I think the way it's being executed with people who don't understand what their job is, it's executed poorly. But from a concept perspective, I don't really have a problem with it.
What do you think? So if I said steps in, what are like steps in a predictable revenue process? So you think about a predictable sales process. What are some of like the most critical steps? Like what are the steps that you feel like, I talked a little bit about discovery. What are the steps in a predictable sales process that you feel either people have to get right or people need to reconsider as like critical components of it?
Well, I think the discovery. So me, I'm a big fan of discovery. And so the one thing that I would, and I'm sure you probably agree, but it's from a function of we need to break apart qualification and discovery. Far too many reps think they're one and the same thing, and they're absolutely not. Qualification is, we only sell to 1,000 people and 5,000 people in that range. This. They have to have like sales loft. Actually, I don't even know if that sales loft before it used to be you had to be on Salesforce in order to use it, right? So that could have been your checkbox, yes, no.
Yeah, sure.
Right? I don't know if that's still the case or not, but whatever it was at a time. That's qualified, unqualified. Yeah. When someone says something from a conceptual level that you may not agree with, and you're like, well, I don't think we're a good fit to work together. That's not qualification, right? Qualification is black and white, not so that's qualification. Discovery, that's where the sale happens. If you finish discovery and the person on the other end, that prospect, isn't like, holy shit, I need to fix this problem. I need to, I hope what Jake's about to show me is going to take me to the promised land, is going to get me what I want. If they're not there and you've started your demo, you've started your pitch, you've started your proposal process.
Yep.
You fucked up. You messed up. That is a bad idea. You should not have done that. So the thing about discovery is that I look at it as almost like a continuum, because number one, you're constantly discovering. You don't ever leave the discovery phase. The discovery phase after qualification, once it starts, it goes through till the end until they've handed you the check, you've cashed it, they're into customer success, and away you go, because you're always going to be learning something new from them. So you never stop the discovery.
That's right.
That's one of the things that a lot of reps get wrong is, they don't do the discovery properly. The discovery is one-sided for them, looking for, they're asking canned questions.
Yep.
Backdooring you into an answer. Jake, is it important that you grow? Well, of course you're going to say yes. No one says no to that question, right? But that doesn't actually help you discover anything, right? So a more appropriate question would be, so Jake, help me understand, how many leads are you getting today versus how many leads are you getting? What is the ultimate goal here? Are you looking to increase close rates? Are you looking to increase average deal size? Are you looking to increase top line? Like really asking those types of questions, that's having a proper discovery, not are you looking to grow? Because you're going to ask, specific questions that are going to give you a specific answer. You're like, fantastic. We love working with growth-minded individuals.
Right.
So here's what we can do to help you. And they go that too quickly. So that would be kind of like, so that's my big thing, is the discovery is where the sale happens. If by the end of discovery, they're not like, I need what you're selling, or I hope you have what I need, you're at a 50-50 toss-up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we're saying that to us, there's kind of two different parts within the broader conversation discovery. There's the understanding, clarifying business and personal objectives. And then there's uncovering, budget, buying, etc. And I think you nailed it. They are two very different things. I think the problem, to your point, especially for the companies I see that have sales development people taking the first conversation, is that their leaders and VPs of sales, this is for you, we have beat the what you're calling discovery, what I call kind of understand and clarify. We are beating that out of people and telling them to just focus on uncover and qualify. And we're getting that twisted with discovery. And it's why people think that, are at an all-time dissatisfaction with the sales process from a complexity standpoint, is that people aren't really understanding the real motivators. They're I'm on this phone with you. I don't care if I add any value in this conversation at all. I'm not trying to get you, the way that you brought it up is right. After the discovery, that person should be like, Man, oh God, I didn't think of this way. Okay, all right, man. Yeah, there's some things I need to think about. Now we go into it. You know what I'm saying? But that's not what's happening, man. You go and pull the average buyer about how they feel after the discovery process, and they feel interrogated. You know, they feel like, man, this person wasn't even listening. They're just like, yeah, right. It's like, yeah, hey, we lost. This is my favorite, right? It's like somebody says something like, yeah, actually, look, yeah, we actually had our worst quarter ever last year. We were actually down 5% year over year, and it's attributed to a few things. Oh yeah, I hear you. Yeah, okay, that's great. Like, did you just hear what I said? Yeah. Like, they're just listening for the qualification stuff, and it's like it's remarkable though how many of those like people that are just totally on autopilot and just not listening at all.
People don't understand the finesse that it requires to be a great salesperson. We've got more borderline accountants and tech nerds nowadays selling than we do an artist and like an actor selling. And that's really where we need to be, because an actor doesn't go up there and read a script. An actor goes on to stage or goes in front of the camera to move people, make someone feel a certain way. If you have that mind shift, right? I'm not saying don't be data driven. I'm not saying don't use technology. Of course, absolutely use every tool that's in front of you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is understand what it is when you're having that person-to-person conversation, what you're really supposed to be doing. And you're supposed to be evoking emotion and really driving that conversation. And the other thing is that discovery process needs to be done by the salesperson, by the AE, not by the BDR, not by the SDR, not by the person.
Well, you could train. I mean, like, I think you could train an SDR. But the problem is the handoff is so shitty, right? It's like if I had a conversation with you here, actually, we can play this out. And I'm the SDR and I'm qualifying you, or I'm having a conversation with you. And I said, look, okay, so here's what I'm hearing. You're trying to do this, etc. Look, let me do this. I've got Matt on my team. Matt is actually an expert in working with small consulting firms, and he works with a lot of these. I think I want to set you two up to have a detailed conversation. I'm going to make sure we have a follow-up conversation about this ahead of time so we can make the most use of your time. But that's not what's happening, man. That ain't what's happening.
No, but here's the deal, though. At that point, you've become my rabbi, not Matt. And that's the deal, right? Is from a function of the person who does all the discovery and who figures out all your pain, that's the person who you have the most amount of trust with. That's the person who you built that love and that bond with. And that's the person who, can actually have that tough conversation and be like, hey, stop screwing around, sign the deal, right? Not because at that point, the way that I'm looking at it is Matt is now a subject matter expert, maybe a sales engineer coming in here to do some of the finer tinkering. But then I'm going to want to come back to you to be like, hey, Jake, what do you think I should do? And I'll open up to you. So that's why I believe that the salesperson needs to be the one that has that conversation. So, again, we can agree to disagree or maybe
well, it's just like, well, then, I mean, look, I agree. I don't disagree, man. I mean, for me, we're just right now, our thought for the buyer experience is just non-existent. And like what you said, I actually don't think it's the salespeople's. I think it's sales leadership. I think sales leadership has become so short-sighted and so looking at the month, and leaders are terrified to take a quarterly or biannual or annual view on how to actually build skill and build talent versus close now, discount, etc. That I feel like it's leadership that's training the salesmanship out of it because they want predictable revenue. And predictable revenue to me is the most blessing and curse book ever written on the planet Earth, where it worked until it didn't work. Agreed. And right now we've got a whole slew of people. And I talked to Aaron, and I know you talked to Aaron, and Aaron said the same thing. He's like, I think people may be taking this a little too far. Like, guys,
I do. But nothing is forever, though, right? Like,
exactly.
Right? And you have to evolve, and so that's why we're evolving the book and we're coming out with the sequel. But at the end of the day, the thing is, the most important thing that people have to kind of take into consideration is that the sales leaders. Okay, maybe expanding on this topic a little bit, right? So you hit the nail on the head. I agree. It's sales leadership, but most sales leaders never have. So two things. We've only ever seen most sales leaders have only ever seen an up economy, right? Most people did not go through you went through 2007, 8, 9, and 10, and 11, right? Where nobody was buying anything, right? You really had to finesse a deal to get it across the line. Now you got frat boys selling to other frat boys, and it's all propped up by VC money. No one's actually scrutinizing a deal, and they're just boom, 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 boom. Well, where you really you're not testing your mettle when you're going downhill and the momentum's carrying you. So that's one part of it. Who cares? But so when you came up in that, right, and you came up from a standpoint in, let's just say, 12 or 13, where you could send out a, hey, who's the appropriate person, quick question email, and then break up with them and then have them come back. No, I'll move forward, right? When you came up in that, and now I closed $12 million and I did this in a quarter and I walked uphill in snow. Listen here, fella. That's not working anymore, and you don't understand how to finesse a deal. My background. I was the dude that went door to door selling life insurance, right? I know how to finesse a deal, and then I moved from that into tech, and I'm like, oh, these people just buying. This is easy, right? So I actually learned how to finesse a deal, and that's the problem, is no one's ever learned how to finesse a deal. 90% of people listening to this don't know what it means to finesse a deal, and they think that sounds shady, but it's not. It's about inspiring emotion. And I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, closing is a transfer of enthusiasm. If I can get the buyer to get as excited as I am, they're going to move forward. That's closing, is that if I can instill that enthusiasm, that confidence, that excitement inside of you.
Yep.
When was the last time that's ever happened?
And nobody's talking about that, though. That's kind of the point, right? Nobody's talking about the art side or the human side of sales as much anymore. And when, the qualification bots and outbound are able to just take over that part, if you don't understand these human to human skills, I'm sorry, man, it's going to be real rough riding for you. Right. Or if you're the flip side, you're the type of person who's a pure relationship builder and you're so focused on getting by on, we're buddies and shit like that. You're going to be
too on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be in trouble too. So, all right, man. So we'll do a couple more questions here. Again, thank you, everyone. We've had a really good discussion here. Got a lot of people hopping in, a lot of comments, a lot of people giving some hearts and some thinking, which always makes me feel good. So my thought is, let me just pull this one up real quick. So as a salesperson, should you always have a plan and know which direction you want the conversation to go, or should you let the buyer take the lead on what they want to discuss with you?
I'm 50-50 on that. And I'll tell you, I feel like the way that question's worded, it's a trap. So one, no, you don't let the buyer take control. Just a bad idea. They'll drive you into a ditch. I promise. Right. But on the flip side, you go in there with a caged plan, you lose your ability to be nimble. Why was Vietnam able to hold on for so long against the U.S. Army? Is very simple, because they were a guerrilla army, even though they were significantly smaller and significantly outmatched on every aspect. When you can be nimble and move on a dime, it completely changes the game and gives you that much more firepower. So it's almost like a little bit of both. You need to know where your milestones are. You need to know what the beat of the call needs to be. You need to be well provisioned and know that you will not end up in a territory that you have no idea what you're doing. So that's right. That, and you need to have an idea of where you're going. You need to have that the address, the coordinates inside of your GPS. Past that, understand you might come across a bridge that's broken. You might come across a
I like that analogy.
And you got to be nimble and twist that. And so 50-50 is my answer.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, you have the framework. I know we're probably point A, point B, and point C are. And I know the things that I want to cover, and I'm going to cover them in a relatively similar order, right? Meaning I'm going to start off with roll and fit. Let's talk a little bit about you, your group. How do they work with other groups? Then I'm going to go into business challenges and business objectives. And if in that, and your objectives, and if in that you start to talk about my competitors, etc., I don't jump to competitors. I stay there. Okay, cool. All right, you mentioned you're working with so and so. Great. I don't like, oh, you're working with those people, and I save it. So then when I'm ready to talk about that, I say, okay, so you mentioned you've done this, you've tried this. Let's talk about that now. And I think that's how I think about it. Like, I have the same places I'm going, and I'm not going to let you lead me down some rabbit hole if I'm talking about business challenge. I'm not ready to talk about competition. Like, I got to dig deeper on business challenges, like, okay, okay, that was interesting. Let's talk a little bit more about that, as opposed to jumping to thing. So I'm in the same boat, that I've got my process but I'm going to, whatever I think's compelling or interesting, I'm going to keep digging in until there's nothing left to drill for. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing.
Here's one thing that I know you do that I think you didn't necessarily touch on is, so if they bring up competitors, you're not going to jump when they say, you're not going to say how high when they say jump. But on the flip side, you've got a pulse on the conversation. And if that's the only thing that person can think about, to call an audible and be like, okay, this fella's got a real,
That's right.
So
I love those guys. They're the best. Like, then I'm going to be like, okay, then I've got to try to.
Then if you love my competitors so much, yeah, no, they do great work. Tell me what you like about it, right? Like, I mean,
that's exactly it.
Like, it's, and then wow, they do all this stuff, but they don't do this one thing. Now you understand why you're having.
That's my one. Yeah, and that's my one thing. That's where I'm going. I'm a land and expand guy.
Against them.
Yeah, I'm a land and expand. I know if I get my foot in the door, it's lights out for you.
Yeah.
If you let me in the door, I'm gonna start to tell. I know I'm gonna add enough value to get the whole biz. So I'm not even sweating it if I get in the door at 5 or 10, 20K, because I know that the work will prove itself. So, all right, we've got one last question here. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for taking time. Yeah, we've got about 100 people still, 96, 97. And I think, for a lot of you, if you haven't ever attended one of these LinkedIn Lives before, they can be a little bit difficult to find. So if you tag yourself, so comment, tag yourself or tag a few coworkers, it makes it really easy for you to go back and find. If not, it gets kind of buried in my posts. Also, I think Corinne will do it. We'll drop a link to the YouTube channel in here as well, too, where you can find all these LinkedIn Lives. And we'll send some other links out as well, too. So again, tag yourself, make it a little bit easier for you to come and find right now. And so the last question we have is, in this process, because we're starting to talk a little bit more about the art of sales, which I think is good because it's an important part to talk about. How do you make the right impression when you feel like you're in a commodity sale? When you feel like you're nearly at the same price point, you're in a crowded market. How does the sales process change or evolve? Or are there pieces of the sales process that change or evolve when you're in a highly competitive or commoditized market?
I mean, that's the difference between an order taker and a salesperson, right? Like, there's 100 other things that I could say, but at the end of the day, look, that's where finessing the deal really matters, because at that point, the actual utility of what it is that you're selling, like you said, is commoditized. I'm going to get the same thing wherever I go. So who's going to make me feel the best is really where that decision is going to come down. And if they're having a really fun time with you, right, and they're really talking to you, they're really enjoying the conversation, they feel like you get it. They feel like you're not going to drop the ball. All of these other things are ultimately what's going to drive the decision, not price, not actual, whatever, whether it be effectiveness or deliverability or all these other things, right? If you're in a commoditized space, that's when you really need to like turn on your charm offensive and really kind of like get them all excited. And that's where the subtle nuances are the most important thing. So, I mean, that's where as a sales leader, you have to call coach, because, as there are things that process will not pick up. You can execute X, Y, and Z properly.
Yep.
But if you're in a commoditized space, you can do it all properly and still lose the deal because that essence wasn't communicated. And that's where call coaching becomes incredibly important. It's on the sales leader to ensure that their sales reps bring it over the line.
That's right, man. And I'll tell you what I think I can sit in any type. Dude, by the way, it's my favorite sale. I love being because to me, the bar is so low, dude, of people that actually know how to care about someone else's business. That's to me, it's about I can get passionate about a lot of different things. So that's a whole other thing. But if my real goal is to help your business, or I won't sell to you. And if you don't have that mindset that, look, my goal is to help your business. And if I can help it, fantastic. If I can't, great too. I'm going to try to get you to the right people who I think can help you. If you have that attitude and they know, and you're objective, truly the definition of consultative, right? That's why consultative sales is it at its essence, it's right. It's just become a joke, right?
Yeah.
Because people label everything as consultative. Is for me, one of the most important things I think about is they know when they have a conversation with me, I'm genuinely curious. I want to understand their business. I want to understand what's happening at it. I'm going to try to give them value on that first conversation too. And I'm really going to try to do everything I can to help them. And that's what it is. If they feel like you are genuinely trying to help them make the right decision, and that's your whole goal in the first meeting, you're going to be in a much better place in your competition. And that's why I love competitive sales, because standing out from others is when the bar right now is like a bunch of like demo robots. Life is, man, dude, it's even easier now, I think.
I agree with you. Let me throw you this question. Now, you and I are both founders of our companies. And so we have to, like, we don't deliver. We let in a bad fit. We have to deal with it. I remember when I was a salesperson, I really didn't care, right? Like once the ink dried, I threw it over the fence. It was someone else's problem. How do you ensure that, because when you're speaking about it from your lens, from, genuinely wanting to help. And I know you, and I know that that's true.
Yeah.
When every other sales rep tells me that, like I said, like, you got to prove it to me before I believe it.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that same is relevant to a sales rep on the sales floor?
That's a good question, man. Yeah, I get. Yeah, that's actually a really good call out.
Because I'm like you. If I can't help you, I don't want the deal, because I know that money's going to come in and it's going to come right. It's going to go right back out, because you're going to be upset.
Yeah.
So it is going to affect me, and I don't deal well with stress. How do you ensure that the salespeople, because once I throw it over the fence, it's not their problem?
Well, look, man, the ultimate way to do it is you tie comp to usage. Like if I'm building software, and this is, I mean, candidly, we're trying to push more of our clients this way, but it's almost like too radical. There's 2 new comp plan ideas that like we're trying to push people to, but the one that's relevant here is like you get paid, 50 to 75% of your commission on completion of deal, and you get the other 25 or 50% once they actually hit like the usage threshold. Guess what happens? Immediately behavior changes, right? Like, and why? And by the way, if you're selling something, why wouldn't you want that? And so I'll tell you why. So for me, a lot of my early sales career wasn't I handed a deal over the fence. It was I closed it and I had to work with that person. So I grew up running a full desk like a lot of salespeople. And I think if you grow up with that, if you get it, I think looking back, that is one of the luckiest environments that I was at. I was at Career Builder for 4 years. Before that, when I was in sports for 2.5. The first 6.5 years of my sales career, I had to set my own meetings, close my own deals, manage and upsell my own accounts. What that did when we started to move to the more specialized world, I understood intimately all of these pieces. And so my sales process was always hardwired with, the shepherd from beginning to end. So I always acted like an owner. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though I'm a CEO now and I have people, like, I always have had that ownership mindset, because when I grew up in sales, that's what I had to do. And so I think I'm very lucky because I've always had that mindset. So for me, that's where it comes from.
No, you're 100% right. Because when I was on insurance, but we got paid 75% total, but I think about 40% of that was our bonuses. We only got bonuses if our persistency rate was over 78%, meaning, every 78% of the deals we closed had to renew on the 13th month. So half my comp only came if my deals renewed next year.
That's right, man. That's right. And that's what keeps you, we'll move back to it. I'm telling you, mark my words, man. This is just, we're just in the middle of a cycle. Now that, again, I haven't been in sales now I started in 2004, 2003, 2004. And now I've seen the cycle once, and we went to this over specialization. We'll start to come back. There'll be some like weird come between. Like I already know we're going to start to come back to some side of like, oh, you know what? And it's going to be revolutionary. Buyer-centric sales and a one rep who manages the account and sells the account. Oh my God. It's going to be epic all time. It's going to be called account-based sales organizations or some shit. Like,
I believe don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think there's some utility to a lot of what's happening.
Oh my God,
There's
totally.
so much wrong with what's happening. Let's look to optimize. I think someone, yeah, you're right. Someone will come up with this brandable theory, and we're all going to switch to it. It's not going to be terribly different, but it's not. But it's going to be trying to recreate the wheel, and so we're all going to throw everything away and try and start from scratch. I'm going to caution people against it. Don't go for the shiny object syndrome. Look at what's working. Keep that.
That's exactly right, dude.
Not working.
Like account-based marketing, for example, like it's like do better research before you reach out. Like, why couldn't we have that? Like account-based is like,
I need to do research. And let me share a little thing with you. I had this kid call me yesterday. A cold called me.
Right.
I picked up the phone, and just a great prospector. Like you know, everything I threw at him, because he was selling me some like security something. I'm like, I don't care, man. Like, I don't want this. But everything I said, like, he was dodging bullets left, right, and center. And I'm like, this kid's good. And I'm like, so I tried to hire him. And then he's like, no. I'm like, wait, do you know what I do? And then he's just like, no. I'm like, did you go on my website? He's like, no. I'm like, you're trying to sell me some security protection for my website. You don't know who I am, what I do. I'm like, wow, from a tactical skill set, he's amazing. Like, he was really
man.
But like from just like basic fundamentals, I'm like, this kid's just going down a list, calling people. And I'm like, again, not his fault, sales leadership's fault.
Yeah, dude. Well, because again, it's like I used to be, I just call you and I'd pulling that shit up on the fly, man. I'm like, okay, boom, here's it. Boom. All right. Yeah. Oh yeah. So cybersecurity. Yeah. Tell me more about that. Blah, blah. Dude, it's easy, man. Just fucking Google. You guys have Google. Man, try selling in 2005, man. You have Google. All of the answers are right at your fingertips. Google. You know, like it's anyway, this will be a whole other thing, man. I got to wrap. So really enjoyed it. For all my New York City friends, if you are in New York, you have operations in New York, we are actually going to be hosting a dinner together on November 14th. Corinne, can you drop the link in the comments, please? So if you are a sales leader or a CEO at a growing company, and you think that this is a conversation like this is something that, you know, again, we're going to be talking about the future of sales. We're talking about brand. We're going to talk a little bit about predictable sales. All those three topics, you know, 10 or 15 minutes or so. Get a chance to network with a lot of CEOs, et cetera. So I'm really pumped for that, man, to spend some time together face to face. November 14th, you can DM me. Or we'll drop the link in here. If you're sales leader or your SVP or your CEO, it's going to be, we had an amazing dinner like this in January. We had about 40 CEOs, SVPs of some of the fastest growing companies in New York. And I'm really pumped for the event. So we'll take a look at it. And then again, a couple people commented, if you're looking for the video, you'll be able to find it if you go back to my feed. So if you go to Jake's activities, posts, you'll see this live stream. So tag yourself. It'll make life a lot easier. In the comments. So just mention yourself and it'll make life a lot easier. So my man, I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks and holding it down and talking more sales.
Happy to do it.
All right, man. Thanks everyone.